Hello, everybody. Hey, thank you, everybody. If you don't know me already, I have the very enviable position of father of the bride. Okay, Larry Laster, and on behalf of Ann and our entire family, we'd like to welcome all of you to the middle of nowhere. Okay, because I know most of you. You got this invitation, you looked on the map and you're like, this is where, right? And it seems like the middle of nowhere, but it's not. So Ann and I both grew up close by, and we still have family that lives here, including her 90-year-old dad who's joined us tonight. But really, most important, we would come out here 1 or 2 weekends every year in the summer and spend time on the lake, and it was one of Sydney's favorite places. So that's how you ended up in the middle of nowhere. So I'd like to also thank the whole Jaffe family for celebrating with us, and especially thank Jason and Lori for raising Dylan. Okay, so we had, I met Dylan for the first time, right? So they'd had this, thing going on, and we fly to London, and they fly from Amsterdam to London so we can meet them. So you would think that kind of make a guy nervous, and I was nervous, but I think it should have made him nervous. And so the elevator opens up, and it comes in, and there is Dylan. And instead of being nervous and thing, he came out, gave a big handshake, a big smile, and it's like, hey Larry, I'm Dylan, it's great to meet you. And it was like, somebody you knew was just making a new friend, and great first impression. I knew immediately why Sydney loved him. And then, through the years, we've begun to love them too. So, Dylan, thank you, all right? So we've got, for Sydney, for me, I have to get to this part without tears, so this could be slow it down. So we've got, it seems like just yesterday, right, that it was the first photo we had together. And you've seen it, so the first day she was born, and we had a photo where I leaned in, and Ann, of course, had her all dressed up already, and she took this photo, and we took it to, the film to get developed at 1 hour photo. I was just pausing while the young people Googled, what is developing film, right? So, but we came in, and we already had the pictures right off the bat, and that smile there is the same smile that's just lit up every room every day since. So, it was wonderful, and she comes into everything, as Dylan said, with joy and enthusiasm. And you want to plan an event? You know what? You call Sydney. It could be a dog tailgate, right? Go Dogs, and especially if you don't put any limitations on her, you end up with this. That's what I found. So, but she could plan an event, and you could bet it's going to be fun because she's going to bring the joy and enthusiasm and passion into everything, okay? And I'm so proud of what you became. In fact, I visited her classroom when she was teaching at a charter school in New York, and that same passion, enthusiasm, she's teaching high school kids, right? And she has them, loving this literature that made me fall asleep as I read according to practice. And they're all there, and it just, watching her change lives, and I'm just so proud of you for the woman you've become. So, and probably no prouder ever than when she waved off that umbrella today. Was that, get it out of here. Let the rain come down. So, Sydney and Dylan, I hope that you guys like and love each other as much as Ann and I have over the last 35 years. And that's my prayer for you guys. And for that, everybody, cheers to Sydney and Dylan.
I'm Mary Morgan, and I'm Sydney's maid of honor and the first friend she ever made at UGA. Sydney and I met standing in line to get our dorm room keys freshman year, and we've been best friends ever since, kind of. When I met Sydney, I thought, she seems very nice, but UGA is a huge school, so I'll probably never see her again. She went on to text her high school friends that she'd met the coolest girl standing in line to get dorm room keys today. She even invited me to get dinner with her that first week, which I politely declined. And then Sydney was everywhere. We pledged the same sorority, and we had a geography class together our first semester. And I was thrilled when I walked into class and saw Sydney's familiar face waving for me to sit next to her. We bonded over the fact that unfortunately we'd signed up for a really hard geography class, and it wasn't the easy A we were expecting. Thankfully, we both passed. Sydney and I lived together for 3 years, and I remember senior year when she found out she'd received the Fulbright scholarship and would be moving to Montenegro. She had to point out Montenegro to me on the map more than once because, as I mentioned, we passed the class, however, we didn't make A's. After she moved, we kept in touch over FaceTime, and I remember one call in particular when she told me that she was going to Amsterdam to visit a guy from high school. More specifically, she said, "Remember Dylan, the cute boy from Whiskey Vent freshman year? I'm going to visit him this weekend." After that, our FaceTime calls focused less on her time in the classroom and more on all of the weekend getaways that she and Dylan were planning to take. When I first met Dylan, before we met, Sydney told me, "He's really great. You two remind me a lot of each other." Of course, I assumed that's because Dylan and I are both tall, dark, and incredibly handsome. However, I quickly understood that what Dylan and I have in common is that we both appreciate and love every aspect of Sydney's larger-than-life personality and occasionally have a laugh at her expense. Sydney, you're the most fun-loving person I've ever met. You love to be the center of attention, but you're extremely thoughtful and selfless. You show up for your friends no matter how far away you are. I'm so thankful that you struck up a conversation with me 10 years ago, and I'm even more thankful for your determination to be my friend. Finally, what kind of friend would I be if I didn't vow to keep your cup full of whatever Ina Garten cocktail your heart desires? Sorry, Dylan. I love you both very much. Cheers.
All right, thank you. For those of you I'm yet to meet, I'm Robbie Templeton. I'm honored to be Dylan's best man this evening. I want to start by thanking our hosts this weekend. Dylan and Sydney's love is truly global, and we wouldn't have the opportunity to meet so many friends and family from truly around the world if it weren't for their generosity. So thank you to the Jaffes for an incredible rehearsal dinner last night, and thank you to the Lassiters. You know, it's already been an unforgettable day, and it promises to be an unforgettable evening and rest of the weekend. Now, I want to take you back to August 2011, the first day of Princeton football training camp my freshman year. Dylan Jaffe was the first person that I met at Princeton, and I have to admit that I hated him. Here was this 6'4" receiver from Georgia who apparently was also really fast because he was running in the fastest group of the team conditioning test. How was I supposed to compete for playing time against that? But fortunately for our relationship, the very next morning, Dylan spectacularly failed that run test. And I started to change my mind about him. As fate would have it, Dylan and I were actually roommates for that training camp, and he became my first friend at Princeton as well. Over the next 4 years, Dylan and I, along with our friend Jack Verducci, became known as the rejects of the wide receiver group. We were the ones who didn't get playing time. We didn't travel to the away games, but we did decide that we were scout team All-Americans. But what we lacked on the football field, we like to think we made up for in other areas at Princeton. Dylan and I were both econ majors, we were both members of Cottage Club, and we were in the same fraternity. And it was over those 4 years and in the time since that I learned what I really admire about Dylan. It's his caring, genuine, and passionate personality, which isn't just reserved for people, it's also reserved for the things that he enjoys to do. This will not surprise anyone who was at the rehearsal dinner last night because it's been brought up countless times, but Dylan really loves Lord of the Rings. And for every year at Princeton, he tried to organize a Road to Mordor. Now, what is that? It's a day of drinking where people show up and watch all 3 Lord of the Rings movies, extended versions, in succession. Dylan tried so hard, and he was so close to making this happen, that he actually collected funds for said event. But shockingly, no one wanted to spend 10 hours of their day watching Lord of the Rings, except for Dylan. Somehow, the funds were never returned, though. So Dylan, I think, was the real winner there. But Dylan brings the same enthusiasm to other things that he's passionate about. I've had lively debates with Dylan about what Chick-fil-A sauce is best, and I learned from him the proper way to watch a Game of Thrones episode. Don't ask your questions until after the episode is over, otherwise you will be scolded. But I've never seen Dylan more upset than the 2012 SEC championship game when the Georgia Bulldogs fell to the Alabama Crimson Tide. And I bring this up strategically so that I can also congratulate all the Bulldogs fans in the room on the national championship this year. But Dylan brings this same commitment to his personal relationships. Dylan's the guy who flies from Amsterdam to New York for a 2-day trip to surprise his friends at Princeton homecoming. I don't think I've ever been more excited than when Dylan walked into our dinner unannounced, that big cherry grin on his face. But to those who know Dylan, this won't come as a surprise. He also managed to fall asleep about 2 hours later on our friend's couch, mid-party. And Dylan doesn't just demonstrate his character in grand gestures like this. It's in small moments that I'm not even sure he knows are incredibly meaningful. During our junior year in our spring practice, I took a really hard hit in practice, and Dylan immediately after pulled me to the side and performed his own version of a concussion test on me, which mostly consisted of asking me if I remembered what classes I'd signed up for the next semester. But it seems silly, but if it weren't for Dylan doing that, I don't know that I would have taken myself out, gone to see the trainers, and I could have permanently injured myself. So thank you, Dylan. So if there's one thing that I can confidently say about Dylan, so whether he's falling asleep or faking a medical license, he shows up for his people. And I'm so proud to see Dylan apply these same traits to his relationship with Sydney. Whether it's the transatlantic flights to keep long distance going, or becoming a mixologist, or being a loving dog dad to Ty, or just having flowers around the house. It's clear that Sydney brings out the best in Dylan. And it's easy to see why. Sydney is so wonderful in her own right. She has, Dylan stole this line from me, I think, but she has a magnetic, joyful energy. And unlike Dylan, I knew that I liked Sydney almost right away. One of the first times I met Sydney was at our friend Brendan's wedding, and poor Sydney rolled her ankle so bad on the dance floor that she actually needed a walking boot the very next day. But you better believe that didn't stop her from dancing the night away and being the life of the party that night. She was such a trooper that my wife actually dubbed her the MVP of the weekend. And how fitting, because she did the exact same thing today with the rain. It's just so your character. You're unbelievable. And it was as obvious then as it is now how happy you make Dylan. And it's been a true pleasure getting to know you over the years. Although you have kind of made me wonder what my teachers were doing in their free time growing up. No, but seriously, I've also loved hearing all of your friends and family talk about qualities that I've often only gotten to see on FaceTime or via your Instagram. It's your devotion to causes that you care about and romance novels, as well as your love of friends and family. I can't wait for a lifetime of memories to come. And just so I stay on Sydney's good side, I want to wrap up by just raising a glass to Dylan and Sydney. Here's to a lifetime of overcoming the sprained ankles and surprise rainstorms, and always choosing to dance the night away together. Cheers, you two.
Okay, I'm gonna wrap this up. But if you know me at all, and I want to commend Jamie Brownlee for also making a toast at her daughter's wedding, which gave, well, I really didn't need permission. But just for the record, her dad gets to walk her down the aisle, he gets to do the first dance, and he gets to give the freaking speech. And I said, So, with that, I am very fortunate and very blessed. And as you know me, will show up and take charge. And with that, first I would like to thank my sweet, sweet husband of almost 35 years, who is by far my best friend. And if I get nothing else out, if you have an ounce of what we have had the opportunity to share, you will have had a wonderful life. And then I'd like to thank the Jaffes, to Laurie and Jason, for a wonderful new son. I could not ask for anyone better. Thank you. I'm going to get through this. So for Sydney, I prayed for you for many years. It took 7. I prayed that you would be kind and loving, that you would be strong and independent, and that you would make a difference with your life and for others as well. And I'm very proud to say I think you've done all of that. And to Dylan, even though you didn't know it, I prayed for you from the day she was born. Obviously, I didn't know at the time who you would be, and it really would have been nice for the heads up people, since you all know she had a crush, and I had no idea. Okay, because I could have been a lot more specific. But I did pray that you would be someone who would be strong and confident enough to hold her up and push her when she needed it, that you would be humble enough, yet proud enough to celebrate and applaud in her successes, and gentle and courageous enough to love her enough to wipe away her tears for the small hurts and the large ones. My prayers have been answered. She is her mother's child, and you knew what you got into, buddy. I got nothing else for you. My prayers will continue for both of you going forward as you live your lives, as you grow and flourish together. May you always cherish can't say the word, cherish each other today and all the steps in between. I love you both. Cheers.
Hi. I know the groom is supposed to talk, but I am my mother's child. So we are so thankful for all of y'all being here, and we just love y'all.
I mean, even on this rainy day, you are my sunshine, and so glad that we can have you all here to celebrate. It's going to be a great night. It's going to be a great weekend. We're just so excited for it, and thank you. We love you all.
And seriously, I know it's been said, but our parents are just the greatest people in the world, and our whole families, and it's just, we have felt so loved. So thank y'all so much. And we're gonna cut some cake now.